Hi, sweet one, and welcome to this week's episode of Embodied Divinity. Let's take a moment to just breathe before we sink in today. Take a breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just let silence be here with us. Silence has felt so yummy to my system lately. I've been feeling a little bit grievy lately, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to talk about that grief in today's conversation, but I want you to know if you're feeling it too, and if silence feels delicious and stillness feels good to your body. There might be something surfacing within you that has surfaced within me and so many members of my community, both online and in person. So I've been really sitting with the nostalgia of my childhood lately, and I didn't really recognize what the grief was at the beginning. I just was craving something. And the more I sat with it, the more my body and my mind let it surface. And it was this craving for stillness and simplicity. And every time I sat alone without a screen or a task or somewhere to be, I felt this grief. And it was the grief of the simplicity of being alive before everything became mediated, before the internet literally lived in our pockets, or before our attention was constantly pulled outward to a million different things, and before the days were measured in productivity and visibility and response time. It actually happened one day last week. I was scrolling on TikTok, which is a habit that I broke for a really long time. But I was scrolling and I'm watching a video of, I can't even remember, but it was like a funny video, probably something with kids or animals. And then all of a sudden it cut to a clip of war and genocide. And then I scrolled and there was a clip of some girl teaching makeup tutorials. And then I scrolled again and there was a clip about a woman being murdered. And then I scrolled and there was another funny video. And I had this awareness the whole time of, oh my God, this is crazy sauce. Like, nobody's meant to consume this kind of content and information in this, not only these quick bursts of time, but what it does to your body and your nervous system. And the only thing that we've done is we've adapted by becoming numb and complacent and disconnected, which is exactly what I feel like, without being too much of a conspiracy theorist, it was the plan all along to keep us disconnected and numb and out of our power. It's really interesting too, being a millennial and being on this cusp of having a childhood without technology and then being an adult with technology, and remembering that there was a way life used to move that was so much slower and messier and more intimate. I remember things my kids rarely get to experience, but there were like long stretches of boredom that eventually turned into imagination. And I did so many things. We used to live by a canal, and me and my best friend at the time, we our favorite VHS was Princess Bride, but I wanted to be the pirates, the guy with the sword, and we would go out to the canal and we would fight the muskrats and each other, and we would be barefoot in the mud. And that was when I was like 12 and 13. There were no phones. Actually, well, the phones were attached to walls, and when we got lost, we had to ask strangers for directions, and being unreachable felt safe. Like, it never crossed my mind that my parents had no idea where I was, that they couldn't track me, that I knew when the sun set it was time to come home. There was privacy then, and inner life, like my inner world, had space to grow. And I think so many of us are carrying this grief without the language for it, especially those like me who grew up on that edge of two worlds. And I want you to know that you're not crazy or broken, and that the system we live in today is not okay. But it's asked me to sit with this question, and I talked about it a little bit last week, and the question that's still on my mind is, what does it mean to simply be alive? When I take away all of that stuff, and I know it's so hard because we live in this system, but when we take away achievement and optimization and performance, and we really just sink into being alive as a sensation and as a presence and as breath moving through a body that belongs to itself. It makes me so emotional just talking about it because so few get to experience that type of embodiment where we're just present here and now. And the question for me started with my burnout and exhaustion. I remember being so tired that sleep couldn't touch it. And there were years of overriding myself and moving faster than my body wanted to move, and living inside a system that required constant output, especially as an only parent. There was no stopping. And I've talked about my story before, but the last 3 years, I stopped. I stopped everything. I let go of my high-end clients. I stopped doing all the retreats and all of the online things, and I stopped hustling in every way, and I really slowed down. And I heard my body's call for silence. My body asking for permission to exist without justifying it all, and to rest without explaining it all, and to feel pleasure without turning it into something useful, just literally permission to be alive. And that's what got me thinking, like, being alive used to feel ordinary. You woke up, you moved through the day, you ate, you talked, you felt things, you rested. God, my childhood was so simple. And somewhere along the way, aliveness became this thing we had to earn. We learned to narrate ourselves and to measure our worth through productivity, and to evaluate the success of our days based on output instead of presence. And then our nervous system began to adapt to that. It learned urgency and vigilance and how to stay alert even in moments meant for rest, just like I was talking about at the beginning when we're scrolling and we're literally laying in bed in a sacred space to rest, and we're seeing all sorts of things. And it helped us survive the change and the evolution that we went through as a society, but it also disconnected us from our bodies. Social media didn't just change culture, it changed physiology. The nervous system reads constant information as demand. There's images and stories and opinions and crises all arriving in your system, sometimes without even a notification. Sometimes you open your phone and it's right there. Sometimes you don't even realize what you're witnessing, but the body adapted. But our bodies were never meant to hold that much. And it changed everything. Our pleasure and our rest and our silence all became these beautifully curated pieces of content, or they didn't exist. I think that there's a whole wave of people that think they're tired because they're doing too much. But when you really sink into the root of what's happening, it's that we're absorbing too much information and too much energy that humankind was never meant to experience. And I'll tell you from my own experience that giving yourself permission to be alive with all of that, without all of that, is really uncomfortable. When that stimulation decreases, our sensations in our physical body increases. Our emotions rise, our memories surface, our grief appears. I've been detoxing from my phone for almost 4 years now, leaving it in another room, walking without headphones, eating with no technology in sight. That used to be a huge thing for me, especially because I'm alone in my house so much. I used to always eat while watching a show, and that just really screwed up my nervous system. Even just letting the day unfold without constantly checking in with other people. This is a huge one. I have people in my physical community who update people about every moment of their lives, and it was just never meant to be that way. But what emerged when I slowed down, and what I've been alchemizing for what feels like forever, even though it's been really like a year and a half, is that I had so much sadness for so much sadness for all the time that I lost. And there was so much anger still living within me for how much attention was taken, and how much simplicity and just being alive that I had missed out on. And there was this deep sense of creativity that started to blossom, which also kind of made me angry because I was like, oh my God, we've been so numb and so suppressed. And I thought I was creative before, but this creative power was something out of this world. And I started to remember who I was before I was available all the time. Like I told you, that story of going out and playing by the canal, it really sparked more of my imagination. And even like burning CDs, like carefully curating a mixtape was such an art. And it's something I've been doing again recently. And it's just like such a sacred practice. There was such a cost to this constant optimization, and it trained us as a society away from presence. And it looks really good on the outside. But inside the body, most people are feeling brittle and hollow. There's no room for experiencing seasons because you're just locked into these devices or this constant input all the time. There's very little room to actually let your body move through illness and grief. There's very little room for joy that doesn't have to be shown off or put online. And that's not what the nervous system needs. The nervous system heals through rhythm and repetition and predictability and pleasure that asks for nothing in return. And a lot of times people call that boredom. But boredom is a part of human nature. And boredom is what other people call boredom is such a sacred part of being human. We have to allow ourselves to feel that lack of simulation. It's why so many people feel exhausted while they're doing everything that they think they should be, because the body is asking for a different pace and a different level of input. And especially living in America or other countries that are built like America, where the cost of survival is crazy. Rent and food and healthcare and childcare far surpass what most people can make working a single job. And so many people feel trapped between exhaustion and fear. And there's not even a way to be alive that doesn't require abandoning reality. And that's why they choose phones and technology and simulation, because it's the only perceived break their body gets. And freedom, the freedom that's going to be revolutionary, the freedom that we get to create for ourselves, can happen in these really small little structural shifts. We can start working fewer hours, and that requires you to make adjustments, of course. But there are ways to be creative. We have to share resources and find a way to lower our expenses. I think that a lot of people spend money on things they don't even need because of this constant consumeristic environment we live in, and all of these things that we see online, like you have to buy this journal to be successful, and you have to buy this business plan to optimize your business, and you have to buy this supplement to live fully, or whatever the hell it is. I don't know, but we have to be able to lower our expenses and start building community, and we have to trade convenience for connection. And I think that's one of the hardest parts, and one of the ways that we've become so complacent as a people is we constantly choose convenience over connection. We have to redefine what success looks like and come back to ourselves and our truth and our heart. Some people find freedom through unconventional work and some through relocation. That's my long-term plan, is to relocate to somewhere where capitalism isn't the lifestyle. Some people through simplicity and finding ways to simplify every part of their lives. Some people find it through mutual support and community and communal living. There's not one single way to do this right, but you do have to start listening to your body, and that requires you to break up from all of this input of information. I learned personally that my nervous system responds to safety way more than it ever responded to pressure. When something feels calm in my body, I return to it. When something feels bracing, I eventually collapse. And this awareness changed how I think about work and ambition and creation, because I no longer want to build a life that requires constant self-override. I want a life that I can fully inhabit, a life where the process feels as nourishing as the outcome. And giving yourself permission to be alive might look simple. It might look like eating slower or sleeping earlier or allowing days to be uneven and creating without monetizing every idea and impulse. It might look like moving your body just because it wants to move, or staying home when your body wants to stay home, or for me, leaving home when your body wants to leave home, and letting joy just be there without you having had to do anything to earn it. And it seems like these are really small things, but actually they reshape everything. A regulated nervous system creates clarity, and clarity creates better decisions, and better decisions create freedom over time. It's not going to be this overnight thing, and it is going to be uncomfortable, but it is also so worth it. We have to reclaim the quiet moments, light a candle, drink tea slowly, wear clothes that feel good, open your windows more often, touch water, write by hand, and allow boredom to become imagination again. This is how power returns to the body. Let pleasure lead again. I grieve the world we lost, but I also see the one that we can build. By choosing a life that values presence over performance, a life that moves at human speed, a life that allows aliveness to be enough. And it's asking this question over and over again: how does this feel in my body? This question has become my compass for everything. It guides me towards what sustains me rather than what drains me, and what allows me to stay present rather than disappear or disassociate. Giving yourself permission to be alive doesn't happen once. It happens again and again and again. Every time you choose rest or slowness or honesty, every time you choose to listen. And this is how freedom grows. It's quiet and gradual, and it's from the inside out, and it's very sensational. I know that I said a lot and that maybe this brought up a lot. So before we say goodbye, let's take a minute to breathe. Let's just pause and let there be silence. Let that be okay in your body. You don't have to change everything overnight. And like I said, it is wildly uncomfortable. But changing a few small things every day makes all the difference in the world. And I'm right here moving through this journey with you. At some point this week, I'll release another guided meditation to bring us back into this stillness. I just released one a couple days ago about allowing miracles to happen without trying to prove or earn, and that might feel like a really good place to start. But we get to do this together, and we get to do it one step at a time. So breathe, take baby steps, and I'll talk to you soon.